Hello, I am Tabaka and welcome to my channel. Today we're playing The Letter. Previously, as Rebecca, we went to the library, did some research, and of course, creepy lady came to attack us. And I surprisingly made the right choice to get away, but then I died a little bit. But then I survived, so yay. And we discovered that the husband of or fiance of Charlotte Ermengarde looks similar to somebody they didn't say, but I assume it's Luke because who else would have looked like? I mean, really. And then they took us to Ashton's side of the story, and we're at the party already. It's like shocking, really. It's like the end for everyone else. And that's where I left off. I want to turn back the background music up in volume. Too loud. Alright. I do like the music in this game. I just feel like the dun 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 is just too loud compared to everything else. Did he actually say that? Oh yeah, he's on here on behalf of a friend. Unnecessary lie. I can't bring my own friends into this any further than what they've found themselves in. Because if Luke Wright so much as harms the hair on either Zach's or Rebecca's heads, there will be hell to pay. Worrying about Isabella's brief dealings with him is stressing in itself already. I doubt he'll attempt anything in front of other people, though. It would tarnish his glorious reputation, and he values appearance more than anything. It doesn't necessarily mean he isn't capable of it. More than, in fact. And on the off chance he does something, I wouldn't be responsible for my actions.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
For Zach's and Rebecca's sake, however, I really hope this'll simply be another housewarming, even though something tells me it's anything but. Call it a detective's intuition or whatever. When Luke Wright's involved, nothing good has ever come out of it. I can't let my guard down here. Even more so, when a familiar car slows to a stop, and out comes...
Chief?
My presence here might be odd at best. I have an excuse. One this man handed to me himself a year ago, along with a heavy dose of flattery for the newly promoted detective inspector. Can't exactly say the same for my good old boss, can I? Although to see him here, chatting it up with Luxborn's rich and famous, isn't such a big surprise in itself. No disrespect meant. But the guy is obviously a social climber. What is surprising is the fact that he seems all too eager to mingle with a person of interest's wife. Just what the hell is he doing here?
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I need to...
Spy on my boss.
There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later.
Like why my boss is flirting with a suspect's wife.
Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
What the shit is going on here?
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
Hey, be careful! About what exact?
I don't want to draw attention to myself either. At least not until he's given me proper reason to spoil his little party.
Thank you for the invite, Anna. Husband still missing, I see?
I should be saying the same of your darling Rochelle, Lee. The doctors again?
For now, the best I can do is wait and remain inconspicuous, especially with Chief here, whose motives are dubious at best. If it means having to pretend I don't know Zach and Rebecca, or forcing myself to rub elbows with people I barely know, let alone like, then so be it. I can't involve anyone. Wandering is out of the question as well. When there are guards and civvies stationed here and there, sure, getting past them is something I could do with ease, but I'd rather not right now, when I'm on one of the few snooping and roaming about. It'd be best to try and do so once there's crowds of people. And if their interior designer's drunken claims are to be believed.
Yes, well, what about Luke? Should we file a missing persons report now, or do you want to wait 24 hours?
I feel like Ashton's is going to be the most interesting, I have to say.
He's around.
You know, I can tell if someone's bluffing.
Well, I'm also interested to see Luke's perspective. Because it seems like there's lots of weird, creepy stuff going around him. It'll all come down to how well I'll play my cards tonight. With a good hand, this party is going to give me the breakthrough I need to crack Luke right. Or something to prove my suspicions wrong. Maybe find out what kind of game my boss is also playing. I had an inkling before, a few hunches tempered down to blah blah blah. Let's reread that, shall we? I've had an inkling before, a few hunches tempered down by how much of a bumbling fool the man appears. But one does not simply deal with the rights and get invited to a party they host without wanting anything from either of the two. Or it's the other way around. So with the last wary glance at the two, I head into the ballroom. I just hope this will not complicate things further. Shit. By the time the party's in full swing, night has fallen, yet there still isn't Luke Wright in sight. The man can be quite ostentatious, but this? Frankly, I'm impressed. I don't even know how many hors d'oeuvres I've already stuffed in my face with. One too many, probably. The servers are already giving me stink eye every time I saunter over the buffet table. Blame your employer, not me. He's the one who has the guts to show up late. Besides, most of the guests' idle talk is concentrated in this area. Despite standing under the same roof with the very people they're whispering about, some just couldn't resist. I might as well keep an ear out for any useful info.
Is Suarez still fixing that tech problem?
Tech problem?
It's been 3 years. Sooner or later, the Blighter will put 2 and 2 together.
Oh.
He might have already.
If the red tape I'm being slammed with these past few months suggests anything, that or someone has been pulling the strings. I wouldn't be shocked. This case would not have gone this long if Scumbag didn't have a mule of some kind in the force.
Shush you, we all know Suarez just wants an out.
I knew he was bad news the day the merger with Evans Incorporated happened.
Feh, glad I did not have to deal with that. But keep it down, someone might hear, the wife especially.
This kind of negligence has always been an advantage, but sometimes I wish I could have be smashed drunk while doing this. Having sharp ears also means you get to hear the most unsavory things. Who cheated on who this week? One person's motive for bashing someone's skull against the wall, or a father's excuse for burning his own daughter alive. That sort of stuff. After a few years, it gets tiring. You get desensitized to it. But humans could also be downright awful. Sometimes there simply isn't enough brain bleach in the world. Sadly, the wine is a no-go tonight, and mostly for show. I'm up for another drive later. For one, and I definitely want to be sober in case anything comes up. And something always comes up in assignments like this. A detective inspector dying of cardiac arrest, for example. Because I can feel the moment my heart grinds to a halt the second I shift my eyes to a corner of the ballroom.
Hannah Wright.
Some will say I'm acting a touch bit paranoid, and maybe I am. This is a party and she's the hostess. It goes to say that she'd take time to mingle with her guests. But Hannah Wright, née Evans, isn't without her fair share of accolades. At least to the public, she doesn't seem like it. Unlike her husband, she's the one with the business sense, not to mention the impressive track record needed to manage a company, or effectively hide whatever irregularity there might be. She's clean, as far as my agents and I have found, but it doesn't rule out a possible involvement with whatever her husband's up to. Hell, Luke Wright came across clean in previous reports until I bothered to take a deeper look into it. What I found may not be sufficient to bring anyone to trial yet, but it's enough to nurture suspicion. This may be a bit of an overreaction, but no one lasts long in my line of work by being careless.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Nothing to be worried about then. She's probably even more careful with appearances than her own husband, having grown up with the spotlight focused on her. Yet, even knowing that, the anxiety stays, has been here since the party started. I brushed it off earlier. Who would feel edgy, right? I gone undercover in a party hosted by the very person I'm investigating. That, in itself, is risky, and has plenty of rooms for error. Never heard the statement, plenty of room for error, as rooms, like it has a whole living room for error, and a dining room for error, a whole new bedroom for error, all the rooms for error. Usually, though, the tension passes around the first half hour or so. I've been trained to remain composed in situations like this. However, With each second I spend here, it only grows heavier and seeks to overwhelm. An odd feeling that someone is watching me instead. Oh, do you guys hear it? The whispers? It has been like this since last week, but I should already be used to this. People would be looking at me, no matter how small or big of a blip I am on their radar. That's what they do with these things. But even the feelings of eyes pouring into my back lingers longer than necessary. I've been looking around every now and then to catch the culprit. No luck. And despite my efforts to push the sensation far down as I could, tiny pinpricks continued to sting the back of my head. And the ghost of a cold touch creeps up my limbs, until my gaze switches back to Rebecca and Hannah Wright. See, I knew something happened. But in Rebecca's route, Hannah has no reaction. And that doesn't make any sense. Whatever. She stands there, dark haired and dirty, sticking out like a sore thumb. Even so, no one seems to notice. Didn't mean to right click. My bad. I do that a lot. It's easier to do it with the mouse pad than an actual mouse. Although she's looking away from me, her mere existence here strikes, disturbs. A sense of tunnel vision binds while I stand stock and still and gape at her, and my life depends on making sure she stays where she is, 'cause it does. I feel trapped in her presence until another guest bumps into me, yanking me out of my stupor. Only then do I realize that I've been holding my breath. Before I could figure out what happened, she's gone. A quick scan of the room yields no sign of her. The party continues as if nothing's amiss. I'm not really one to judge, but I'm sure someone like that wouldn't have been allowed in a fancy thing like this. What has the security been doing? Are they really that incompetent for someone so distinct to easily get in without notice? There should have been an outcry by now, particularly from the host. She's been standing almost an arm's length away from the woman, and yet she simply continues her talk with Rebecca.
Oh, the professor! And your little Becky!
My parents couldn't.
Yeah. Is there something in the food then? That I'm starting to see things? It couldn't have been the wine. No. I'm every bit as sober as when I first stepped off my car. The hors d'oeuvre? But why would anyone want to do that? Why would Luke Wright want to do that? He is fishy, but I couldn't see why he'd ever think it'd be a good idea to lace the food he'd serve in his party with someone like Chief Lee on his guest list to boot. He has been linked to narcotic trade. He has been linked to narcotics trade? Luke? Damn. Yep. However, that kind of tactic is below him. That much I could tell. Unless there's a mass murder waiting to happen here tonight, which I highly doubt. So,
What the fuck was that?
Just casually. What the fuck was that at a party where people can hear you, Ashton? There's no time to look deeper into this, even if I want to. Not when a telling silence comes upon the room and draws everybody's attention to the main doors of the ballroom.
About damn time.
Good evening, ladies and gents. I hope I'm not too late.
Yes, we heard this from the scumbag. I love how he gets a new name for every character. I've been telling this guy for a while now. Before that, I heard stories from previous officers who tackled this case, none of which are pleasant. Mind, I'm not counting the incident with Professor Clark yet. Pleasant is glossing over the gravity of it, while Wright's good at covering whatever shady stuff he's doing. He's shown to be a really rotten guy. At least, that's the case when he thinks none of his peers are around to judge him. I lost track of how many counts of verbal abuse and harassment cases the guy could be pinned with. Fuck. He even tried to make a move on Isabella back at the open house, right in front of his wife. Standing in the same room as him doesn't make me want to punch him any less. Actually, the urge is stronger. But protocols my case. First and foremost, my own opinion of the man shouldn't get ahead of my purpose here. Also, why would you being in a room with a guy you don't like make you want to punch him less? Usually it has the opposite effect. It makes you want to punch them more. You know, whatever. Each of them. If I want to put him in his place, it should be in a court, with all proper charges filed against him. And I'll only be able to do that once I gather enough evidence to pin this bastard down.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode tonight. If you have yet so, enjoy the rest.
Suppressing my annoyance. Not me. I've heard this 3 times already. I prepare to step away from the crowd. Amidst the cheers and claps, now's a good time as any to move. Try to find that something the McCullough woman talked about. In the first place, I have no plans to actually shake hands with the slime ball himself. A fake smile is plastered on my face while I pretend to listen to one of the other guests gossiping about him, all while slowly inching out of the ballroom. Unfortunately, before I could get any further...
Are you feeling ill, Rochelle?
Oh, yes,
Perhaps
just a
you
bit.
need to sit down and...
Third time we've seen this one too. Rich people only have 2 ways to resolve their mess. Either they quietly deal with it behind closed doors, or they create an even greater problem out of it and just blows up in everybody's faces one way or another. Fun.
No! Shut it, you monster! You bloody bastard!
Not even a few seconds in, and this is already proving itself to be a big public spectacle. Why spend money on a television to buy daytime soap operas? You could just go to one of these parties and see the action unfold in real life. You get free food too. Really, if I were an actual guest, I'd just take this as some sordid form of amusement.
Watch your tongue. You're on thin ice, Rochelle. Where's your husband?
But I'm not a guest who's here for a good time. I need to focus on him, even through this whole sorry tale. I got very Canadian there for a second. So I wait, I listen, I observe. Interesting, isn't it, though? That's the chief inspector's wife. October 29th, Saturday. The morning after starts off quiet. Even the whole Silomwell residence seems unusually still. The open hallway, when I step out, is devoid of tenants. No sounds coming from the other units either. It's almost as if something's brewing on the horizon. A peaceful night's sleep still does wonders for the mood, though. I can't even remember the last time I've slept without anything urgent interrupting. It's a nice break from all the bad news lately. If it wasn't for the incessant buzzing in my pocket waking me up, I'd sleep in. The ringing has stopped before I could move somewhere private, but sleep has also been effectively kicked out of my system by then. Pity. I could have used a little more rest until I had to face the other storm. Of course, I owe Rebecca an explanation. It doesn't matter if it's the whole truth or another hastily spun tale. Although I haven't really figured out how to go about this yet. Unlike Zach and Isabella, who don't usually ask questions and are content with what little I could share, Rebecca's rather quick on the trigger. If you have a friend who's a police officer and is willing to tell you something, then you shouldn't be asking more questions. Don't dig too much further. Just get that they have a specific type of job and leave it at that. Don't be so nosy, Rebecca. Oof. It will have to be set aside for later, though. I almost forgot about that ringtone. The chief's name stares back at me, almost as if mocking me. Sad. Would have been nice to just chill after last night, or maybe half listen to the news. Sure, it's the same thing we've been hearing lately. Still be standing outside in a chilly Luxborn morning, on the phone with my boss. Sighing, I answer it, if only to get this over with.
Frey, where are you right now?
Now, that's a tone I didn't expect from him at this hour. Just thinking of how this will go already gives me a headache. Immediately I reach up and pinch the bridge of my nose to stave it off.
This is why I won't ever drink myself senseless.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief. A pleasant morning to you, too.
He is probably calling to rag on me or complain about his wife, which is really none of my business, unless it affects my case. It seems like the usual rich man cheats on his wife deal. Although, I would have followed up on it if it were somebody else's wife. But figuring it's the chief, hey, I trust him to come clean if the missus is related to the Wright's shady dealings. This is why I left before they even hauled the woman out last night. I'm not going to go around investigating cheating husbands and wives when it's probably just that. Chief appears to have a different idea in mind, though. Well, we'll see what the chief has in mind in the next episode. I am Tato Cat. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon.